What do we have here? We're gonna have a little more fun with this build, boy, I tell you what. What's up, guys? Short, kind of impromptu start of the video here. I've currently got my axle out of my old drift car on the table because I had to do a couple things to it, but that's not because I'm upgrading to reusing it. I'm actually trading it. What I ended up doing for them was welding the axle tubes and cleaning a couple things up. So I am taking it to trade with a friend of mine who is looking to get off IRS for his IRS. So the new drift car is going to be IRS, but I gotta get this loaded up. I'm running behind. And I'll come back when I actually have the IRS in hand. This is what I traded the solid rear axle for. This is a IRS system out of a 99 Cobra. So a buddy of mine who had this on his car hit me up when I started parting out the old orange car and said, hey man, are you selling your solid rear axle? And I said, well, not particularly, but I would like to go IRS. And then he mentioned he had this on his car. Now, there is a reason I've got a deal on it. So if you didn't know, my old solid rear axle had 373 gears, Ford Explorer 31 spline diff, Moser axles, BMR lower control arm brackets, UPR chromoly upper and lower control arms, the works, welded axle tubes. It was built, dual caliper brackets. But even then, if I were to sell it, I could get only like $600-700 out of it. A good working condition Cobra IRS goes for $800 to $1,200, somewhere in that range. And that's just for the IRS, nothing else, bone stock. So, you know, if I wanted to get one, I'd have to buy one and then sell that. So when he hit me up with this, he's like, well, I got it, but it needs a couple things. If you look over here, he tried to take the axle off and broke the end of the axle off. So, and then there's also a good bit of backlash, but there's also a bunch of play in the axle. You can hear it. And the clutch packs don't quite grab, not that I care about that. So I planned on rebuilding one of these anyways. There are some key differences. So 99 had 28 spline half shafts in the differential and 28 spline on the end of the axle half shafts, or axles, whichever you want to call them. They also didn't have the brace and didn't have a couple other things. In 01, they went to 31 spline axles, but kept everything else relatively the same. And then for 03, 04 Cobras, they also added a brace right here along with going to even stronger 31 spline axles. Now, on the ends, they are 28 spline. And the other thing to note with these differentials is that on 99 Cobras, there is a recall on the cross-axis joints in the knuckles that are known to fail. Now, this one, from everything I could find and everything I could tell, and there isn't much info on the internet that's easily Googleable, and I haven't talked to any real experts that know about that. What I can tell is I have newer cross-axis joints. I have whoever had this rear end in their 99 Cobra, because this came out of a car that was swapped into, they apparently had the recall done. So I think we're good in that department. But yeah, we're gonna be tearing it down, and my goal is, first off, what else goodies came with it? Because I did get a deal. So this, we'll say, because it got the bad wheel bearing, the bad axle, this is probably worth $500 to $600 at least. I'd say $600, maybe even $700. But he also has full tilt buggy adjustable toe arms on it, and he gave to me, and it's in this box right here, Maximum Motorsports Delrin lower control arm bushings, which is $500. So that's $500 plus another $130 for the toe arms on top of what this is worth, $600. I still feel like I got a deal. He kind of wanted to build it, but his biggest thing was he didn't have the time, and he wanted something reliable for seat time. I've already got a bunch of seat time. I'm not worried about it. I'm gonna get this thing rock solid. So my plans are swap these out with the Delrin bushings I already got. For now, I'll probably leave the cross-axis joint alone, but I'm gonna put the eccentric bolt from Full Tilt Boogie Racing that gives you like an extra half degree of adjustment. Hopefully I'll be able to get enough toe out to where I can get even amber wear. If not, we might have to see about modifying these arms or possibly making a new one with a buddy of mine who's got a CNC. I wanna rebuild the differential. I either wanna put a open diff that I can weld in it, or I want to put a spool. I think it's on 327s right now, which is a little long, but not necessarily too long. We'll see. I might just leave it in there for the minute being and see if I like it with the higher horsepower. If not, I can always go like a 373 or something. He said it has 373s in it. Kind of doubt it. We'll find out when we open. The tag says 327. So we'll play it by ear. We're basically gonna rebuild all this. I'm gonna get 31 spline carrier, because it just uses all the same Ford 88 carrier stuff, except it's got seals on the end that the axles spline into. You'll see when we pull it all apart. Replace all the rubber bushings up there, down here. You know, add the brace. There's a brace that goes bolts here and then bolts to the chassis that even Ford thinks you should have. Probably replace these sway bar end links, but run the sway bar. You know, just all the little things. Obviously replace the broken axles. Most likely fix the busted wheel hub bearing that's on this axle. Dual caliper bracket. I would like to see about making some sort of bigger caliper work like I will with D154. I do see somebody has out there for 2-piston Z calipers to adapt, which would work, but you know, I like to go overkill with everything I do, so you know, we'll play it by ear. But first things first, let's start getting this pulled out and get the axles pulled out and the sway bar end links, because we want to get this carrier out so I can crack it open and see if there's anything wrong with it, along with the wheel hubs. So I have the axle out and the hub knuckle off and such, and you can see that this axle is actually in pretty good shape, other than being, I gotta find a good place. The boot right here is ripped. Got a big old hole in it. If I grab the axle, I'll show you what I mean. Big old hole. So, other than that, this axle seems fine, but it's 28 spline, which is 99 Cobra thing, so this might honestly be the original axles. Would not surprise me. So we're gonna go ahead and switch to 0304 axles, because those are better. But you can see it's just typical 88 bearing, inner bearing for the carrier. And I think all that's different is that it's got these little this little ring that sticks out on the end to help retain it a little bit. Other than that, I don't think there's anything different in it, so I can just go grab a junkyard carrier, or I could grab a spool. Either or, they both do the same thing essentially. Welding those are fun, but a spool might just be easier in this case scenario. Looking at this, I cleaned it all off, but there's a bunch, like a thick, like a 1/8 inch layer of grease around the outside of the bearing. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but not that big a deal. I am going to replace the wheel bearings just because don't want to risk it. I've already got it apart. Fix it while it's here. Don't want to deal with more issues down the road because I decided to, I'll cheap out and save 40 bucks because I don't want to do a wheel bearing. But both the cross axis joints they aren't necessarily hard to move, but they don't have any real like side to side play in them at all. Like nothing in the slightest. So I don't know if these are aftermarket or something. They're definitely not the 99 Cobra recalled ones. I'm almost positive of that. I don't know what they're from. So, but they seem fine. I'm gonna leave them alone. Don't fix what's not broken. So, heim joint is off, and these end heim joints seem corroded as hell, so I'm gonna replace them like I said. But this is actually an adapter that sits in here, so I'm gonna leave that there. I kind of kept the order they came off, so it came off bolt, locking bolt, small washers. Heim would go here, and then thick washers. And that's off, so all that's left to get the axle out is taking this cross bolt out and then popping this and starting to work at it. But I want to take this opportunity to show you why I wanted IRS so bad. And there's one key thing among everything else. And this biggest thing that makes me want IRS is you can do this. And that doesn't look like much, especially people that don't know. But what that's called is tow. By towing in, you get a lot more drive off. So basically, if you ever see a drift car, especially on a poorly set up drift car, they throw it into an angle and then they step on the gas, but instead of going forward, they like wash out backwards. That's because they have too much wheel speed for the grip they have, and their momentum's carrying them backwards because by spinning the tires more, you're reducing effective grip. That's not always the case. It's like more spinning the tires is more grip up into a certain point. And that certain point is when you're just absolutely matting the gas with 100 and something mile an hour wheel speed. But you'll see it where some cars, they struggle to kind of push forwards as they're on the gas mid-drift. And by adding more toe in, and it's one of the things that makes these such popular cars, by adding more toe in, it makes the car want to drive forward more in drift. Just because of the way the tires are angled in, it's working against it a lot more. So that's why I am putting all this effort into this, just for this one little thing. Hold out there. I don't want to do this. Wheel bearing is toast. I'm not supposed to be able to do that. We're just gonna pull all the carnage out from here that I can pull out. Let's see. There's that. The hub seems fine. That is another ring. Oh yeah, toast. Carnage. Oh, those are roller bearings. Rip. That's a part of the roller bearing. Yeah. Yeah, that's toast. That would explain why he's having trouble with the, he thought a wheel bearing was going bad, because it's fucking toast. So, that's unfortunate. So I got it up on the table here. Currently the only thing holding this in, I think, right now is literally the brake rotor. So let's pop this off and get the brake rotor off. Oh. That is, yeah. That is toast. I hope that's not irreparable damage. I don't think it is. I think it's just on the outer lip. I gotta clean it up a little bit, but yeah, that's that just fell apart. There's all the little rollers for the bearing. Yeah, I don't know if this is savable or not. That's unfortunate. Catastrophic failure. Look at all the little rollers. That's what concerns me right there. Is I know it's not focusing very well, but yeah, that looks like it might not be the end of the world. We'll see. It's gonna be, I might have to get a new knuckle. We will see. So I went out and got a 20-ton H-frame press, and I started pushing the bearings out, and I think my camera didn't record any of it. So I'm just gonna quickly go over what I did with y'all. So this is the good knuckle, the knuckle on the side that wasn't worn out. I didn't fall out. And I simply set it in there, and I pushed the spindle out. And although there's a bunch of wear from it being probably a factory spindle, it still seems to be in good shape. Then I went through and I set my socket here, and I pushed out the actual center bearing. Now the back half of it fell out in the process of pushing it out, so I didn't quite use the right size socket, but it still worked. As you can see, the spindle is pretty clean. I'm gonna clean it up, probably end up sandblasting it, but it is technically ready to get a new bearing pressed in and just be good to go. The dual caliper brackets I'm putting on these is actually gonna drill these holes out. So I might do that now while the bracket is all out and easy to work on. On the other side, I went to the bearing that was damaged and I attempted to push it out, and it didn't work so well. So if you can see, the bearing carrier casing, this bad boy, the double taper bearing, is still in there. The center section, the other side of the bearing fell out, and of course this side of the bearing came out with the spindle. So that makes my life pain in the fucking ass. So now I gotta figure out a way to push this out and also push that out. Now these knuckles, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to reuse this one, because if you look, there is a bunch of damage on the inner lip. That is this lip right here. But honestly, a lot of that is still there on it, and I don't know exactly how much this inner lip actually does, because most of it's behind that lip. It's just the outer little bit that's there. So I might be able to get away without it and just running it with what's left and cleaning it up a bit. And seeing these knuckles are literally $1,000 from what I can find. I don't want to buy a new one, so I'm gonna try and make this work regardless. Good news, cut a groove in it, popped it right off with the air hammer. No big sweat, came right out. Bad news, when this failed, it fucking toasted the spindle. There's a big groove in it, big notch. It toasted this whole back half. So this spindle is junk. So that was a waste of my time. Well, so that's great, loving life. Guess I'll try and air hammer that out real quick. Maybe that'll work. So this is like the most perfect coincidence. Basically, I've been trying to figure out how I'd press the center of the hub out, because I don't have anything wide enough to get it. And I could go get a socket, but those are expensive. And then it just so happens I saw this. This is a wheel bolt off of the Universal King Kong ride. Or maybe it's Godzilla. I want to say it's the King Kong ride at Universal Studios. I have a friend that works there, and he gifted me this as a cool engineering trinket. It used to sit on my desk. And it just so fucking happens, it fits fucking perfectly. Like, I could not have planned that. It slips right in and right out, but it catches the entirety of the race. So I'm gonna go ahead and push that out with this. Thing is working like a glove, man. I couldn't have planned that any better myself. Coming right out. You see? Almost out. Get this out the way. See the bearing coming out right there. Almost there. Boom. Like it was meant to fucking be. That is the shot bearing casing. That is my spindle cleaned out. I am so goddamn happy. That worked out way too well. I'm gonna have to message my buddy and let him know I still have this bolt. I got it like 6 years ago, and it's literally been sitting as a paperweight on my desk for these last couple of years, 5-6 years. That was perfect. I'm gonna be using this a lot more. So, differential center carrier is out. My GoPro's dead, so I'm using my phone right now. But these diff bearings actually seem to be in good shape. So I might just stick with these, because I kind of don't want to, this one that's not broken, but it's leaking from the front pinion seal cover along with a couple other things. And if we go over and look, what I had to do to get it out was I had to undo 2 long bolts right here. You can also go this way, but with the heim joint it's hard to get to. And then I had to drop the 2 bolts here. I had the jack under it, and just the whole thing dropped out. And here it is. And yeah, it's got a code. Pull these out. The axle tag here says 3L27. You can see it there, 88, which it signifies as a forward 8.8 inch rear Center, 24 pound. I don't know exactly what that means. I'm assuming that has something to do with the limit slip differential. But the 3L27 should indicate that it has a 327 gear. Now you can double check this, but when you pop this open, you can actually check on the ring gear. It'll have a marking for what ratio it is. But if this is a 327, it might be a little bit long for my purposes. I haven't calculated the wheel speeds, but I know a 373 at 8,200 RPM is 88 mile an hour in second of the TR3650 trans, which is already a bit on the long side. But we'll see. You can see this thing's definitely coated in grease. It's hard to see. It just kind of comes off my finger there. So it's been in there a while. It's been open before though. You can see that it's got the grease around the edge. So again, I'm hopeful. That fact that it's been open before might means they just stuck the axle tag back on there, and that it actually does have a 327. So one way to find out is to crack it open and see. So it's a little bit messier than I was expecting it to be. I spilled some gear oil, so I put some cat litter down. But as you can see, just as your typical internals for a 488. It's interesting. This bearing cap does look different. I couldn't tell you if it's wider, but I think it's ever so slightly wider than your standard bearing cap. I could be wrong though. I'm not 100% sure. I definitely know they're different. Your typical solder axle 88 bearing cap is got arrows that go this way. It could just be that they expanded the bearing on this side or the bearing cap, so it's just wider there. And it wouldn't actually affect the center carrier. But everything with the center carrier looks honestly dead on the same. It's got your traction LSD clutch packs there in the same spot on the other side. It's got the groove for the ring, but there's no actual ring gear in here. Pins, 28 spline, so it's got the smaller center pin. And if we keep moving, there's your cross pin that holds that pin in there that stops you from taking it apart. What I'm curious for is, where are my markings for gear ratio? Where are they? Normally they're on the side of the gear with the Ford Performance gear. I've got some markings here. This might be an aftermarket gear ratio, because these are, I've never seen this groove before. It says B. It says B. I think that's 327. That's interesting though. I've never seen an 88 ring gear that's different like that. Normally it's farther down this way and there's normally not that groove. So this might be an aftermarket gear, this might be a stock gear. I'm not 100% sure what I'm looking at, but yep, it's it feels fine, to tell you the truth. There's a little bit of wiggle on it. But other than that, the actual rear end itself is still fine. So if this is a decent gear, I might just clean it up and, well no, I lied, because I want to swap this center carrier out. But yeah, I could potentially weld that. So we'll see, playing it by ear. I'm gonna do a little more closer digging and figure this out. What's up, guys? Future Dylan here, or past Dylan. One of those two. Semantics, it doesn't matter to you guys because regardless it's in the past. I decided I needed to make an editor's note because I kind of forgot to include this in the video, and I kind of realized it while I was editing last night. But this video you just watched of me tearing down the IRS I traded for is going to be the first video in a line of videos where I'm building a competition/seat time Mustang. And I've come to that conclusion after this video where I blew the 2-valve up, or this video where I crashed the car, that putting more time and money and effort into this shell that's not really capable probably isn't a good idea. So the goal is to make a competition Mustang that meets all the requirements and is a baller on the track, while also being able to get a shit ton of seat time, so that way I don't have to worry about, you know, the car messing up. I'm more so worried about me messing up. As you can see by the disastrous shop in the background, I've been working a lot on this whole entire process.
So hopefully you guys just enjoyed the video you saw. If you want to tell me I'm stupid, just go ahead and comment it down below, because I probably am. If you like it, give it a like. If you want to see the next video where I take that broken IRS and turn it into a working IRS, go ahead and give me a subscribe. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.